Normandy, France, June 13th, 1944. A Sherman tank bursts into a shower of scorching white metal. Inside, 5 American soldiers perish in an instant. They never had a fighting chance. 200 meters away, concealed in the thick hedgerow, a German Tiger I tank backs slowly into the shadows. Its 88mm gun is already chambering the next round. The crew remains cool and precise. This marks their 4th kill of the day. By the end of June 1944, Allied forces have put 875,000 men ashore in Normandy. They are up against roughly 400 German Tiger and Panther tanks. The odds of survival are harsh and straightforward. On average, it takes 5 Sherman tanks to knock out a single Tiger. 4 of those 5 Shermans will end up in flames. The Americans have a grim nickname for their standard M4 Sherman, the Ronson. It lights first time, every time. In the bocage country of Normandy, where every field is a deadly trap bordered by ancient earthen banks and dense hedgerows, American tank crews are dying at a rate of 580 men per week. The Tigers lie in wait from hidden positions. Their front armor is 100mm thick. A Sherman's 75mm gun cannot punch through it at ranges beyond 100 meters. The Tiger's 88mm gun can slice through a Sherman's armor from 2,000 meters away. The kill ratio in tank against tank fighting is devastating. For every Tiger destroyed, 6.8 Allied tanks are lost. Whole armored battalions are wiped out in a matter of days. What the Allied High Command does not yet realize is that in a supply depot near Southampton, England, a 24-year-old corporal with no engineering background and no official authority is stuffing children's toys into his backpack. In just 7 days, he will revolutionize armored warfare forever. His name is Curtis G. Culin, Jr., and he is about to carry out an act of battlefield ingenuity so bold that senior officers will label it vandalism. The trouble starts the moment Allied tanks roll inland from the Normandy beaches. The bocage landscape of France has been shaped by 1,000 years of farming tradition. Every field is enclosed by hedgerows, thick walls of earth, tangled roots, and vegetation that rise 4 to 6 meters high. The roots dig down 3 meters deep. Stone and compacted soil form the base, perfect cover for German defenders. The bocage is a defender's dream. Each hedgerow serves as a natural anti-tank obstacle. Every field becomes a perfect killing zone. Tiger and Panther tanks position themselves hull down behind these ancient banks, exposing only their turrets. When American Shermans try to climb over a hedgerow, they lift their noses high and reveal their thin belly armor, just 25 millimeters thick. German gunners wait for that exact moment. They rarely miss. Lieutenant Colonel Stuart A. Fries of the 2nd Armored Division writes in his after-action report dated June 18, 1944, "We are losing tanks faster than we can replace them. The hedgerows turn every advance into a nightmare. Our doctrine is built for open ground. Here, we have none. The Army tries everything. Combat engineers blast gaps with explosives. That takes 30 minutes per breach and announces their position to every German within a kilometer. Bulldozer tanks push forward. The hedgerows are too dense and too deep-rooted. The bulldozers bog down or snap their tracks. Flamethrower tanks attempt to burn the vegetation. The roots are too wet and too thick. Nothing catches fire properly. General Omar Bradley calls an urgent meeting at 1st Army Headquarters on June 24, 1944. The top engineering officers, armor commanders, and planners attend. The conclusion is unanimous. There is no answer. The hedgerows are a natural feature that cannot be defeated with current equipment. The Army must accept the heavy losses and grind forward slowly. Bradley predicts it will take until September to break out of Normandy. At present, casualty rates, that means another 7,000 tank crewmen lost. The stakes go far beyond Normandy. If the Allies cannot smash through the bocage quickly, the whole schedule for liberating Europe falls apart. The Germans gain time to strengthen their lines. The Soviet push from the east could slow down. The war might drag on into 1946. In the tank battalions, morale plummets. Fresh replacement crews arrive from England and die within days. Some men refuse to climb into their tanks. Courts-martial for cowardice rise by 300% in July. Veteran commanders even ask for transfers to infantry units, figuring their odds of survival are better on foot. The Sherman tank, designed for the wide-open deserts of North Africa, has turned into a death trap in the tight, closed-in world of the bocage. Curtis G. Culin Jr. is no engineer. He is not an officer. He is a 24-year-old former cab driver from Cranford, New Jersey, who joined the Army in 1942. He serves as a reconnaissance sergeant in the 102nd Cavalry Reconnaissance Squadron, part of the 2nd Armored Division. His education stopped at high school. His military training covered basic cavalry tactics and map reading. On the morning of June 27, 1944, Culin is doing routine maintenance on his EM-8 armored car near the village of St. Jean. The sounds of battle never stop. Artillery thunders in the distance. Tank guns echo. Small arms fire rattles through the hedgerows. His unit has lost 3 reconnaissance vehicles in the past 2 days. All were destroyed while trying to force a way through or around hedgerows. Culin watches a Sherman from the 3rd Armored Division attempt to cross a hedgerow 200 meters away. The tank's front rises sharply. Its tracks churn dirt and plants for 3 seconds. Its vulnerable belly is fully exposed to the field beyond. A German anti-tank gun fires once. The Sherman's ammunition cooks off. The blast is bright even in daylight. No one escapes. Something clicks in Culin's mind. The issue is not the height or thickness of the hedgerow. The real problem is the angle at which the tank approaches. It is trying to climb over an obstacle. What if it could cut straight through instead? That evening, Culin walks across a field recently cleared by engineers. Lying scattered in the grass are pieces of German beach defenses, steel hedgehogs, Belgian gates, angled iron beams meant to tear open the hulls of landing craft. The steel is tough and hardened. The army has been gathering these obstacles by the ton, intending to scrap them. Culin picks up a section of steel beam. It is about 1 meter long, angled at 30 degrees, with a sharp cutting edge. He tests its weight in his hands. An idea takes shape. Culin does not seek permission. He knows exactly what the response would be. Instead, on the night of June 28, 1944, he finds Sergeant William Duckworth, a skilled maintenance man in his unit. Duckworth has full access to welding gear. "I need you to attach something to my scout car," Culin tells him. "Just don't ask too many questions." They work under flashlight in a field workshop, breaking blackout rules completely. Culin has drawn his idea on the back of a ration carton. 4 steel prongs taken from German beach obstacles, arranged in a straight line across the front of the vehicle. Each prong points forward and downward, like the teeth of an enormous fork. The sharp cutting edges face ahead. Duckworth looks over the sketch. "What in the world is this supposed to do?" "Cut through hedgerows," Culin replies. "That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. Weld it anyway." They labor for 3 hours. The prongs are heavy and clumsy. Getting them positioned right takes a lot of trial and error. The welds have to be solid enough to survive heavy impact, yet placed so they do not mess with the suspension or reduce ground clearance. By 0200 hours on June 29, 1944, the device is finished. It looks rough, almost ridiculous, like a giant version of a child's toy rake. At first light, Culin takes his modified scout car to a quiet hedgerow. He tells no one in command. He does not write any report. He simply speeds up to 25 kilometers per hour and charges straight into the ancient earthen wall. The prongs dig deep into soil and roots. The scout car shudders violently. For a second, it feels like the resistance will win. Then the hedgerow gives way. The prongs slice through earth, vegetation, and tangled roots. The scout car bursts through to the other side in 8 seconds. Culin backs up and checks the opening. It is 2 meters wide, exactly the right size for a tank. The hedgerow's strength is ruined. The gap can now be widened easily. His scout car's armor is untouched. The prongs are slightly bent but still usable. He has just cracked the problem everyone thought impossible. News travels fast among the enlisted men. By the afternoon of June 29th, a large group of tankers and mechanics gathers to see Culin demonstrate his invention. A tank commander from the 3rd Armored Division, Captain James Dew, watches the test and instantly understands what it means. "That is totally unauthorized," Dew says. "You've altered military equipment without permission. That's destruction of government property." Culin shrugs. "It works. I need to get this up to division." The demonstration reaches Major General Leroy H. Watson, commander of the 3rd Armored Division, on June 30th, 1944. Watson orders Culin to report to division headquarters right away. Culin arrives expecting a court-martial. Instead, he steps into a room filled with 30 officers, armor commanders, engineering experts, ordnance specialists, and staff planners. Major General Watson sits at the head of the table. The mood is doubtful and tense. "Show us your device, Corporal," Watson says. Culin presents his modified scout car. He explains the idea clearly. Use salvaged German steel to build cutting prongs that let vehicles slice through hedgerows instead of climbing over them. The device can be welded onto any tank in less than 3 hours with materials already on hand in theater. A colonel from the Ordnance Department stands up. "This is absurd. You're suggesting we change thousands of tanks based on one corporal's garage welding experiment. These are precision machines. You can't just weld scrap metal onto them." "I've already tested it," Culin answers. "It works." "You've tested it once, on a light scout car, against a single hedgerow," another officer points out. "What about weight distribution?" another asks. "What about shifting the tank's center of gravity? What about stress on the hull?" A major from the 2nd Armored Division adds his voice. "We have strict procedures for modifying equipment. They demand full engineering studies, prototype trials, and approval from Washington. That takes months." "We don't have months," Captain Dew interrupts, rising to his feet. "My battalion alone is losing 5 tanks every day." The room explodes into argument. Officers talk over one another. The engineers demand proper testing steps. The armor commanders want it rolled out immediately. The ordnance men quote regulations. The discussion turns loud and heated. General Watson lifts his hand. The room falls silent. "Corporal Culin," Watson asks, "can you attach this device to a Sherman tank by tomorrow morning?" "Yes, sir." "Then do it. We'll run a live test tomorrow. If it succeeds, we put it on every tank in the division right away. If it fails, you're facing charges for destroying government property. Dismissed." That night, Culin and a group of volunteers work non-stop in the 3rd Armored Division maintenance yard. They weld his device, now being called the Culin hedgerow cutter, onto a standard EM4A1 Sherman tank. The prongs are larger than the scout car version, strengthened to handle the Sherman's 30-ton weight. By 0600 hours on July 1st, 1944, the work is done. The test begins at 0900 hours. General Watson, General Bradley, and more than a dozen senior commanders are there to watch. Regulations prevent Culin from driving the tank himself. Enlisted men cannot command armor during official trials. Lieutenant Robert Babb, a seasoned tank commander, takes the controls. The chosen hedgerow is one of the thickest in the sector, picked on purpose to make the test as hard as possible. Babb floors it, pushing the Sherman to 40 kilometers per hour. The tank smashes into the hedgerow with massive force. The prongs bite deep. Dirt flies everywhere. Roots snap like rifle shots. The Sherman tears through in 6 seconds, emerging on the other side without ever exposing its belly armor. Bab reverses and hits the same hedgerow from another angle. Same result. He makes 5 passes in total, each one successful. The prongs show some wear, but hold up. The tank takes no damage at all. General Bradley turns to Watson. How quickly can you equip every tank in your division with these? 72 hours, sir. By July 5th, 1944, the 3rd Armored Division has fitted 346 tanks with Culin hedgerow cutters. The 2nd Armored Division soon follows, adding 298 modifications. Other divisions start building their own versions based on Culin's simple design. Within 2 weeks, more than 1,100 Allied tanks in Normandy are carrying the device. The difference on the battlefield is instant and staggering. On July 8, 1944, the 33rd Armored Regiment launches the first big offensive using tanks equipped with the cutters. Their objective is to push 4 kilometers through thick bocage and capture the village of Haute-Vent. Earlier attempts by units without a device had failed with severe losses. Lieutenant Colonel Samuel Hogan leads the attack. His after-action report, submitted July 9th, lays out the facts clearly. We left the line of departure at 0615 hours with 42 tanks. We crossed 17 hedgerows in the first kilometer. Average time to breach each hedgerow, 12 seconds. 0 tanks became stuck or disabled while crossing. 0 hits to belly armor. We reached the objective at 0847 hours. Mission accomplished. Compare that to previous operations. Just 3 weeks earlier, a similar advance by the 1st Infantry Division took 36 hours and cost 18 tanks. Hogan's force finishes the job in 2 hours and 16 minutes with no tank losses from hedgerow crossings. The true proving ground comes on July 14, 1944, during Operation Goodwood, the huge armored thrust south of Caen. Corporal Culin, still with the 102nd Cavalry Reconnaissance Squadron, joins the advance. His unit scouts far ahead of the main armored columns. At 1430 hours, Cullin's reconnaissance team runs into a German strongpoint near the village of Saint-Thau. Intelligence indicates at least 3 Tiger tanks dug in defensively. Normally, recon units would pull back and call in artillery. Instead, Cullin's commander, Captain Robert Milligan, decides to probe the position directly. What happens next becomes one of the most recorded small unit actions of the entire Normandy campaign. Culin's scout car, still fitted with his original prototype cutter, leads 3 Sherman tanks through a chain of hedgerows the Germans believed were completely impassable. The Americans suddenly appear just 50 meters behind the Tiger positions. The German crews, focused entirely on the expected American approach from the north, are taken totally by surprise. Sergeant Howard Davis, commanding the lead Sherman, pumps 3 rounds into the rear of a Tiger at point-blank range. The Tiger's thin rear armor, only 82 millimeters thick compared to 100 millimeters up front, cannot hold. The Tiger erupts in flames. The second Tiger starts to swing its turret, but Lieutenant James Belden's Sherman destroys it before it can shoot. The third Tiger turns and flees at full speed, smashing through its own hedgerow defenses in panic. The entire engagement lasts 90 seconds. American losses, 0. German tank commander Hauptmann Otto Carius, whose unit operates in the same area, later writes in his post-war memoir, "On July 14th, everything changed. The Americans started appearing where they simply could not be. They came through hedgerows we believed were solid walls. Our carefully prepared defensive positions, built over weeks, turned into traps for us. We could no longer predict their routes of attack. Between July 14th and July 21st, 1944, Culin's reconnaissance unit, operating deep in enemy territory, finds and destroys 9 German tanks, 3 Tigers, 4 Panthers, and 2 Panzer IVs. All 9 are knocked out by attacking from unexpected directions, made possible only by the hedgerow cutter. The unit suffers 1 vehicle damaged by a mine and 0 losses to direct enemy fire. The broader strategic effect reaches far beyond these small fights. On July 25, 1944, Operation Cobra begins, the massive breakout from Normandy. More than 1,500 American tanks, almost all equipped with Culin cutters or similar devices, smash through German lines in just 48 hours. What Allied planners thought would take 6 weeks is achieved in 2 days. The numbers tell the full story. In June 1944, before the cutters were widely used, American tank losses in Normandy averaged 82 per week. In August 1944, with the cutters now standard, losses fall to 31 per week, even though operations have intensified dramatically. Tank crew survival rates improve by 64%. Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Fry, the same officer who called the hedgerow problem unsolvable back in June, writes in his August 15th report, "The Culin device has completely changed armored warfare in this theater. We are no longer limited by the terrain. The boost to our crew's confidence is beyond measure. They know they can go anywhere. And the Germans know it too." Captured German intelligence reports from August 1944 confirm the enemy's view. One document from 7th Army headquarters, dated August 3rd, states, "American tanks have gained the ability to breach bocage obstacles at will. Our defensive doctrine, built on funneling enemy armor into prepared kill zones, is now obsolete. Recommend immediate withdrawal to more defensible ground east of the Seine." By August 25, 1944, Paris is liberated. By September, Allied armies reach the German border. The Normandy campaign, expected to drag on until October, wraps up in 3 months. Military historians later estimate that the Culin cutters shortened the campaign by between 6 and 8 weeks, saving roughly 10,000 Allied lives. Curtis Culin receives the Legion of Merit on August 20th, 1944. The citation praises him for exceptionally meritorious conduct and outstanding service. It states that Sergeant Culin's ingenuity and initiative in creating a device to defeat hedgerow obstacles contributed greatly to the success of Allied operations in France. He is promoted to sergeant. He turns down a battlefield commission, choosing to stay with his reconnaissance unit. He never seeks fame. When journalists try to interview him, he always shifts credit to the maintenance teams who built the cutters and the tank commanders who used them in battle. The Culin hedgerow cutter, nicknamed the Rhino by the tank crews, becomes officially known as the M1 hedgerow cutting device. By September 1944, more than 3,000 have been produced and issued. The device stays in service through the end of the war. Adapted versions see action in Italy and during the Rhine crossings in 1945. Post-war studies by the U.S. Army Center of Military History rank the Culin cutter as one of the 5 most important tactical innovations of World War II, alongside radar, the proximity fuse, amphibious landing craft, and long-range fighter escorts. In October 1945, at a ceremony in New York City, General Dwight D. Eisenhower meets Culin in person. Eisenhower tells him, "You did what all our engineers said could not be done. You did it with scrap metal and plain common sense. Young man, you saved thousands of lives." Culin returns to Cranford, New Jersey in December 1945. He goes back to driving a cab, just like before the war. He rarely talks about his service. When neighbors eventually learn about his role in inventing the hedgerow cutter, he brushes it off as just something that had to be done. In 1954, the French government awards him the Croix de Guerre with Palm. He attends the ceremony but gives no speech. In 1984, on the 40th anniversary of D-Day, he is invited to Normandy for the commemorations. He declines, saying, "I'm not the hero. The heroes are the guys who drove those tanks into combat every single day." Curtis G. Culin Jr. passes away on May 2, 1963, at age 43 from heart complications. His obituary in the Cranford Chronicle runs only 4 paragraphs. It makes no mention of the hedgerow cutter. Today, examples of Cullin's device are on display at the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, the Tank Museum in Bobington, England, and the Memorial de Caen in France. Modern combat engineering vehicles still use the same core idea: cutting blades instead of brute force to overcome obstacles. The U.S. Army continues to teach the Culin story at the Command and General Staff College as a classic example of battlefield innovation. The key lesson they stress: sometimes the best answers come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes a corporal with a welding torch can see what generals and engineers miss. In 1987, veterans of the 3rd Armored Division dedicate a memorial at Omaha Beach. Among the names engraved is Curtis G. Culin, Jr. Beneath his name, a short inscription reads, "Because of you, we came home." The hedgerows of Normandy still stand today, ancient and impenetrable as ever. But they no longer claim the lives of tank crews. One man, armed with nothing more than scrap metal and sheer determination, made certain of that.